Hey guys. It's a beautiful day in the garden today. I am planting peppers. So it's the end of June. Might be the 24th today, 24th of June. And that might seem a little late to be planting something, but that's true. My garden is, in general, my garden's a little bit late getting planted this year, but I'm okay with that because I've not just been planting, I've been building. This whole garden space I built starting in the spring, late winter, but basically I had to build all of these beds, all of these trellises. I started seeds indoors under grow lights, and so I've been busy building, and it's okay that my garden's a little bit late this year. I know a lot of people, I know myself, it's easy to get discouraged when you're looking at other people's beautiful, flourishing gardens, and you're like, man, my garden looks so little, tiny, puny right now. How is their garden already, how are they already harvesting things? And you have to take into consideration your growing zone, because some people have warmer climates and they got an earlier start than you. But honestly, it's fine. Don't compare yourself to other people. You do you. And the important thing that you do, really the most important thing when it comes to timing when to plant things, if you're wondering, can I plant this? Is it too late to plant this? You really need to look at your last frost date. And my last frost date here in zone 7B in Alabama, northern Alabama, is around Halloween. October 31st is usually our estimated first frost date. And I calculated, and that is in 128 days. So I still have 128 days left in my growing season. And I also looked at how long it takes these peppers to reach maturity. And these peppers I'm planting 4 different kinds of peppers. I'm planting these Thai bird's eye chili peppers that I got the seeds from, I got takeout from a Thai restaurant. You guys know how much I love takeout, but it was a Thai restaurant, and it came with a dried red chili pepper as a garnish. It wasn't cooked, it was just dried. And so I split it open and got tons of seeds. And this is what I have to show for it. I have 15 of these plants, and apparently they're very prolific, so I'm gonna have tons of these red Thai bird's eye chili peppers. But I'm growing these, banana peppers, jalapenos, and ozark giant bell peppers. And all of these peppers take 80 to 90 days to reach maturity and get harvest. So with 128 days left in my growing season, I've got plenty of time to grow these peppers. And peppers, actually, they don't like to be started too early when it's too cold. If you put pepper plants out, and I just learned this year, if you put pepper plants out when it's too cold, like when the nights are dipping below 50 degrees at night, Fahrenheit, that'll actually stunt the growth of the pepper plant, and you won't get a good harvest on it. So peppers love warm weather. The hotter the better. That does not mean that they like dry weather. They do need to be watered. but I'm really excited. I'm hoping that this year is my year to have beautiful peppers. Last year I grew jalapenos and I harvested a good bit, enough to make 1 or 2 large quart jars of fermented jalapeno peppers. But yeah, I'd really like to get bell peppers. I'd really like to get tons and tons of peppers. So this whole bed is going to be peppers with a few eggplants. It's going to have maybe 10 eggplant plants, maybe a few, yeah, around 10 eggplants in the middle here. But the rest is going to be peppers. I've got a lot of opportunity here to have, this could be Alex's year for beautiful peppers. So let's talk about spacing for peppers. In my online research, I found that peppers actually like to be grown a lot closer together than it says on your seed packet. I think most seed packets recommend like 12 to 18 inches between pepper plants, but I've seen a lot of research and a lot of other gardening YouTubers like Jess at Roots and Refuge and M.I. Gardener, Luke over at M.I. Gardener. They talk about peppers like to hold hands. Peppers like to be planted really like 8 to 12 inches. So I'm planting mine 8 inches apart, and the reason for that is they just don't compete with each other that much, and also they help support each other. They help, in case of wind or anything, if they're closer together, they help prop up and support each other. So I'm planting mine 8 inches apart. And if you want to know a cool trick, something that has really helped me in the garden, you should measure your hand. It may seem kind of silly, but if you measure your hand from the bottom of your hand to the tip of your middle finger and figure out how long that is, you can use your hand as a ruler when you're gardening. I know that my hand is 7 inches. From the bottom of my hand to the tip of my finger is 7 inches. And I even broke it down. The palm of my hand is 4 inches and the finger is 3 inches. And that helps me. I remember last year when I was harvesting okra, I would hold the okra up to my finger and see, because you want to pick okra before it's 4 inches long, like typically between 2 and 4 inches long is when you want to pick okra. That's when it's the most tender. Today I've been using my hand as a measuring tool to draw a grid across this bed that tells me where I need to plant my pepper plants. So if I'm planting my pepper plants 8 inches apart, my hand is 7 inches long, then I know that I'm using it as a guide, and that's how I'm planting my peppers. So yeah, measure your hand, and your hand will be a tool. So these peppers are going into this bed, which is made of, I added a couple of inches of composted chicken manure, well-aged composted chicken manure, on top of my red clay soil. And this morning I added bone meal, a bone meal fertilizer, which is relatively low in nitrogen. It has some nitrogen, but it has more phosphate and calcium. And because the chicken manure has lots of nitrogen, and you don't want to do too much nitrogen. Otherwise, if you have too much nitrogen, you'll have really big, green, beautiful leaves, lots of lush leaves, but it will really hurt your harvest. You won't get much fruit if you have too much nitrogen. As far as planting peppers, when you're trying to figure out how deep to plant your peppers, some of you may have seen my previous video where I talk about planting tomato plants. And when you plant tomatoes, you want to bury them very deep. And you want to bury the stem. You actually remove the lower leaves and bury the stem of the tomato plant really deep in the ground to make, because it'll send off roots off of the stem. But with peppers, you don't want to do that. Peppers, you just plant as deep as the pot was, just wherever the soil level of the pot was is where you plant the peppers. And you can hill up the dirt a little bit around the stem, but you don't want to do it too deep. They don't like being buried deep like tomatoes do. I'm really excited about these red Thai bird's eye chilies because I've never grown them before, and I just thought it was really cool to be able to get a seed from an unexpected place, like my meal from the Thai restaurant. Just to be able to get a seed and grow something like that is just really cool, unexpected. And I didn't even know if they would sprout. I just, as an experiment, I just put a handful of them in a pot, and every single one of them germinated. But they're really good for drying, and you can grind them up and make chili powder. Or I might even try fermenting them and making a hot sauce. I love fermenting hot peppers. It kind of makes them even spicier. I'm also excited about banana peppers because I've never grown them before. I love pickled banana peppers. They would probably be good fresh in a salad. I know I'm also going to do a lot of snacking on fresh peppers out here in the garden. And yeah, the bell peppers that I got, I've never really successfully grown bell peppers. They've never done well for me. And the bell peppers that I'm trying are Ozark Giant from Baker Creek, and it's a large red bell pepper. And I have a random orange bell pepper plant from some orange bell pepper seeds that I bought last year from Baker Creek. They did not do well last year. I think I put them out when it was still too cold. But I learned my lesson, and I'm planting them in the middle or the end of June now, when it's really hot. It's probably 87 out here right now, but there is a breeze, and that feels nice. I hope if somebody's watching this and they're like, if you're new to gardening, or you just discovered gardening, or maybe you've been gardening for a long time and your life circumstances have prevented you from getting things in the ground this season. If you're upset about that and thinking it's too late for you, I hope you plant something. It's not too late. One of the worst things you can do is compare your garden to someone else's garden, because it's not about them. You garden for you. I know some people garden for max productivity. Some people really want to fill up their pantries and provide for their family, and some people feel like they have to have a reason, a valid reason to justify, spending money and time in the garden. I think joy is a good enough reason. I think you and your happiness and your joy are a good enough reason to grow a garden. You are worth it. You are enough. You don't have to grow a garden to prove that you're enough, or to prove anything. You don't have to grow a garden. But if you feel like you want to grow a garden, I hope you do. The garden is it's just magical. I can't I know I say the word magical a lot, but there's really no other way to describe the pull that the garden has on me. I'm exhausted, guys. I've been out here gardening for hours every day in the sun, which is not the best time to garden. It's better to garden early in the morning or the evening, but my schedule doesn't really allow for that. But I'm exhausted. But I can't stay out of the garden. I can't. Every time I get 5 minutes before I have to cook dinner, or 5 minutes turn into 15 minutes, I just have to run down to the garden and see how things are growing, see what's blooming, and daydream a little bit about what it's going to look like really soon. Yeah, I can't stay out of the garden, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But I hope that you look at your last frost date and figure out if you've still got time to grow something. And if you're not sure if you'll be good at it, just give it a try. You might surprise yourself. You might surprise yourself by how talented you are at it, how attentive and delicate and gentle and caring you are with your plants. And gardening might surprise you. I know the garden has surprised me many, many times. Seeds really do want to grow. Plants bounce back. I planted all of my tomato plants down there in my cinder block beds a couple weeks ago, and three of them were completely devoured by a bunny, a groundhog, somebody comes in here and has a buffet at night. But 3 of my beautiful tomato seedlings were chewed down to just a tiny little stem with no leaves. And now, a couple weeks later, like, I thought the plants were done, but a couple of weeks later, it's now a couple of weeks later, and they have leaves, new tiny little leaves growing off that tiny little stub of a stem. So plants are resilient. They will surprise you. I promise you, if you show up to the garden's gonna show up for you. The garden will show up for you. That doesn't mean that you're gonna get an amazing harvest your first year gardening. But it does mean that the garden will teach you things about yourself you didn't know, teach you things about life you didn't know, teach you things about your ecosystem. You may not even know very much about the ecosystem that lives in your own backyard or even on your own balcony or patio. You may not know how amazing it feels to put your hands into moist soil. Some people may think that sounds terrible. But no matter what you do in the garden, if you harvest nothing else, you are definitely going to harvest lessons. you'll learn. You'll learn how things like to grow and what they need, and what things require something different than, all plants require different things. Some are similar, some are different. All right, it's done. All my peppers and my eggplant are all planted in this bed. My hot peppers are over here. Those are the Thai chilies and the jalapenos. The sweet peppers are down there, the banana peppers and the bell peppers. And I saw somebody say online that you should separate them, put as much distance between your hot peppers and your sweet peppers as possible, because they could possibly cross-pollinate, and the seeds, it wouldn't affect this year's harvest, but if I planted seeds, if I saved seeds from the peppers that cross-pollinated and planted them, then they might be spicier next year. My sweet peppers might be spicier next year, so I've not got them separated too much, but I've got them on either end, and they're separated by the eggplant here. I've got two types of eggplant, a Rosa Bianca eggplant and a Black Beauty eggplant. I'm not sure which is which, but I'll see whenever they start to ripen. And the next step here is to go ahead and mulch. I'm gonna get some wood chips and mulch around these pepper plants to keep the soil nice and moist so that I don't have to water as often, and they have all the water they need, and that also helps to regulate the soil temperature, keep it a little bit cooler. They are peppers, but the soil doesn't need to get too hot. So the peppers are mulched, the bed is full, everybody is set up for success. So you guys wait, this is gonna be my year for awesome peppers. But thanks for hanging out with me today and planting some peppers and some eggplants and talking about why gardening is amazing. Let me know in the comments if you are also planting things this late in the growing season, and good luck to you. Thanks for hanging out with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget. Happy growing.